Hi everybody, my name is Anthony and I'm a studio librarian here at the Sachem Public Library. Today I'm going to be showing you how to assemble your laser cut birdhouse kit. Before we get into building, we're going to go over what is in your kit from the studio. So you're going to have a few pieces of wood. You're going to have a front and back to your birdhouse. You're going to have the perch for the birdhouse. You have a little decoration for a hole for the front of the birdhouse. Some little decoration for the roof. You're going to have 4 of these pins that are going to help hold on this decoration. You're going to have 10 of these little interlocking pins, which are maybe not necessary, but supplied with the kit to help lock it together if you do decide to use them. You're also going to have a little decorative fence for the front of the birdhouse. You're going to have the floor of the birdhouse. You're going to have the 2 sides and 2 roof panels. Okay, now that we talked about what's included in your kit, we're going to go over real quick what's not included in your kit. Okay, this time we did not supply the glue because there's a couple different ways to go about it. If you're going to put your birdhouse outside, I would definitely recommend gluing the kit and all the surfaces together using either a wood glue. It doesn't have to be this specific wood glue, any type of wood glue will do. Or you can use a super glue. Common household super glue is fine. Okay, that's if you're going to use these outdoors. If you're going to use this just as decoration indoors, this kit actually locks together tight enough where it doesn't actually need to be glued. But if you did want to glue it and you were going to keep it inside, you could also use a little bit of hot glue on some of these interlocking pins, and I'll go over that a little bit later. So you have a couple of different things you can do. For outdoors, I definitely recommend wood glue or super glue. For indoors, you can kind of have the kit locked together itself, and if you're really worried about it coming apart indoors, you can use a little bit of hot glue in some strategic areas. One more quick thing before we start building, and that's going to be either painting or staining your birdhouse. Now you can leave it exactly as is, but unfortunately unpainted wood, especially unpainted wood as thin as this, does not last too long outside. So if this is going outside, I would highly recommend painting or staining it and then going over with a clear coat, either with a polyurethane or a like Rust-Oleum spray can type of clear coat, just to better protect it when it's outside. One other thing about the painting or staining of this birdhouse kit is once you get this all together and glued together, you're not going to be able to paint or stain the inside anymore. You're not going to have access to it. The only access is going to be the hole for the front where the birds go in. So now would be a good time to plan that out. What I would recommend is actually watching the rest of the video, watching how it's constructed, and then you can decide what your interior panels are going to be, if you want to mark them, and if you want to paint them ahead of time before you put it together. So I would watch the video, mock up your birdhouse, and then go back and follow along again with the gluing and assembling. All right, we're going to start our build with a couple of the little pieces. So the first things that we're going to grab are the 2 pieces of the perch that gets attached to the front of the birdhouse. So we want to actually line our pieces up like this. So you see this has that rounded top, and so does this. They're going to go in the same direction when you put it together. So in this case, you could see these kind of have these interlocking pins here. We're going to put a little glue on this piece first, and this, for my example, I'm going to stick with the wood glue. It's nice and easy to clean up if any of it oozes out. Okay. Okay, and you can see that, like I was saying before, you got a little bit of a pressure fit there. So it's going to keep it nice and tight until the glue dries, and then once it dries, it's not going anywhere. So I would just keep a paper towel or an old rag or napkin, something like that nearby, and you can just wipe off any excess glue. Alright, for the next step, we're going to grab the front of our birdhouse. We're going to grab the little decoration for the front of the birdhouse. We're going to grab these 4 little pins. Okay, you only have 4 of these in your kit. They all look the same. The first thing we're going to do is take our decoration, and we're going to apply some glue to the back of it. Doesn't take much. You can use it sparingly. Okay. Now you're going to line up these 4 rectangular holes with the front of the birdhouse. It's probably a little harder to see. Okay, and you're going to get them as lined up as you can for now. Okay, so while kind of holding that in place, because right now it's still going to slide around, you can come back with your paper towel and just wipe off any of the excess glue and put that back aside. Okay, now here is where our pins come in. So I'm going to put that down gently for a second. Going to grab a pin. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on it. Okay, and if I can get it down there, I'm going to put a little bit of glue down on that base of the pin where it kind of juts out a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to gently pick this up. Remember, this is still going to move because if you use wood glue or anything like that, it's still wet. From the back, you're going to poke in that pin. You're going to push it through the birdhouse front, and it's going to go right through the decoration too, and then it's going to be flush with that. So you can see I got a little bit of glue in there. So once this all dries, that'll lock the front on. Okay, and you're going to do that 3 more times. The next 3 pieces we're going to work on are the 2 sides and the bottom plate. Okay, so real quickly, I'm going to show you how this lines up before we do any gluing. Now the bottom plate will only lock onto the sides in one direction. So see here, if I try to do it, it doesn't fit, nothing lines up. But if I turn it this way, now it does line up, and those pins will get popped in there. Okay, and that's the same for the other side. Okay. All right, now when you're gluing this, you're mocking it up, you want these side panels, see these little kind of pieces coming out? Those are connectors we're going to use in towards the end of the build. They need to be sticking up or facing up. Okay, so now that I kind of have this mocked up, I'm going to glue it one side at a time. Okay, so I have the bottom plate again, and I have the side that's going to get attached to the sides of the birdhouse, and I'm going to put a little glue on here. Okay, so I'm going to put a little glue here, a little bit here, here, a little bit there. Okay, and I'm going to bring this piece back. Remember, these pieces have to stick up, and this is going to be on the bottom. Okay, and just take your time, don't force it, just slowly press it into place, it will go. Mine's kind of already bottomed out, but as you can see, I got a little glue sticking out. So if you want to be a little bit neater, you can even put a little glob of wood glue, something like that, and use a kind of a throwaway brush and kind of paint it on. That way you have a lot less oozing out like this. But for my demonstration, this will work just fine. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll be back with our next step. Alright, so now this is what it looks like with the both sides glued. Okay, of course now this glue is not dry, and so there's a little wiggle in here. These can move back and forth. That's actually going to help us right now as we put the next piece on. So as much as it can be tough to work with something that's still got wet glue on it, we actually want to put the sides on now because that'll give it its final shape, stiffen it up, and then it'll dry. That's why these interlocking pins are awesome, because they keep everything steady and together while you're kind of manipulating and gluing. So we're actually going to be bringing in the back of our birdhouse. Now the back of our birdhouse is the one with this little piece jutting up. This is the piece that you can put a screw through to attach it to whatever you want to attach it to, or tie a string to hang it from wherever you want to hang it from. Okay, so I'm going to pick one of these sides, and I'm just going to do a basic mock-up. I'm going to make sure these pins on the bottom line up into here, which they do, and I'm going to make sure these holes are going to line up with these little tabs through here. Okay, so we're just going to mock it up a little more just to make sure before we commit to any gluing. Okay, and that looks like if I wiggle it in there, it'll be just fine. So what I'm going to do is temporarily pull this back off, and I'm going to add some glue. Okay, so now I'm moving things around, so I'll give you another perspective of what I'm doing here. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put glue on all these spots right here. Now, if you wanted to, you could put more glue on the tabs that stick up, but you will have to wipe them off because it'll push glue out towards the back of the birdhouse. Not going to hurt anything, it just requires a little more cleanup. So, now that I have that, I'm going to gently place this back on here. And you can change this to whatever orientation that's easier for you to work with. I think this is kind of easier for the camera to see, so we're going to go with that. Okay, so before I'm pressing anything down too aggressively, I am kind of gently massaging all of those little tabs that were sticking up on the parts we previously glued to line up the holes on the back of the birdhouse. And you want to be very gentle. Just apply light pressure. If it's fighting you, just take a second, realign it, and then push it back down. Okay, and now you can see that's actually down there pretty good. Now I'm going to have the same problem I probably did with my other pieces, and I got a little crazy with the glue. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to clean this all up and wipe it all off, and then we'll be back for the next step. Alright, so now that's what this looks like, all glued up. Now again, this glue is still wet. I'm kind of assembling it, relying on the locking tabs and leaving the glue wet so I can finalize and move everything around in one shot. So now we have this. I'm going to bring in the front of our birdhouse, what we prepared this piece for before. And I'm going to do the same thing I did for the back. I'm going to do a practice fit. I'm going to make sure everything lines up, which it looks like it's going to. If I push this in, it'll go right away. So now I'm going to take that apart. And I'm going to do a little more gluing. Bring this piece back in, lay it on top before. Like I said before, we're taking our time, we're aligning, we're not forcing anything. If something doesn't go right away, we're going to just kind of gently massage it into place. And when I feel everything's lined up enough, I'm going to actually push from the other direction. Okay, so we have one little piece that's being a little stubborn. See, I'm taking my time, I'm walking around it, and I'm pushing it in, okay? Now, you go back around, double check we didn't push any of the other birdhouse pieces out. Looking pretty good. Everything's lined up the way I want it. Okay. Now we'll be on to our next part. Okay, now we're going to start adding the roof to our birdhouse, okay? Now this part can definitely be done by one person, but it's going to get a little tricky. So if you have an extra pair of hands that you can borrow to kind of help you put this together, it would definitely help you out. But I'll show you guys how to do it, and you can take it from there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start on one side of the house, or one side of the roof. So I'm going to put a little glue. These areas here. Okay. And now I'm going to take my roof. Okay. Very important that this notch, there's one side that has a little notch here, and it has less of these rectangular holes. That's going towards the back of the birdhouse, which currently is back here. So let me kind of adjust the view. So this is the back of my birdhouse. This is the back of the roof. This is the front. All right, so I'm going to gently bring the roof and kind of line it up and lock it into these tabs. Okay. Okay. Now I have that down there. Okay, now here's the part where this may get a little tricky. We're going to bring in a little roof decoration here. This goes under the roof. It makes the birdhouse look pretty cool. So we're going to take our glue again and put it over here, 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 and here. Okay. And we're actually going to bring it up and underneath and lock it the best we can in. So this is where an extra pair of hands or a piece of tape or may come in a little handy. Okay? Because now we're going to have a few parts in motion that we want to kind of get together all at the same time. So as you can see, I'm kind of holding this with one hand if you're doing it by yourself. I'm bringing my glue in. And I'm going to glue the top of the roof. Okay. I'm going to glue here. Okay. I'm going to add some more glue up where these roof lines meet. So lock the top in. So as you can see, we got a lot of moving parts and we got a lot of wet glue everywhere. So we're going to take our time. We're going to bring in the other panel. I'm going to orientate it the right way. And I'm going to kind of get an idea of how I'm going to get all this to line up. All right. So I'm going to start with the kind of lining up the roof peak. And then go from there. As you can see, I have some pieces I want to move around, but I'm just taking my time. I got my thumb kind of on the roof peak to kind of keep that together. I'm adjusting the front of the birdhouse too. Okay. Now as I'm going, I'm kind of gently keeping that and trying to push the little roof decoration underneath there into place. And you can see I'm not pressing anything down until I feel I have everything in place. No need to force it. We'll get all the pieces where we need them. Okay. All right. Now, if you want to add a little bit of extra reinforcement, you have some like blue painter's tape or masking tape or scotch tape or anything like that, just to kind of strap some tape around this just to make sure this doesn't fall when you're not looking away or something like that. It's usually locked in there with these tabs, but just in case. You can also take some tape and kind of go over the top of this roof line too. So you have a couple of minutes. See, once I let go, everything kind of stays there, so I can come back with tape or rubber bands or whatever I have. And if I want to make sure these are nice and tug, I can use those to help me out. And then let's not forget our cleaning up the glue step, but you guys might be a lot neater than I am. So I will go around and clean up all my glue. I'll make sure all my joints are where they're supposed to be. And there we go. Oops, see I got a little glue run on the bottom here. So I got a little bit of cleaning up to do. So now my birdhouse is together. I'm going to add some more of the decoration pieces and then some extra interlocking tabs you can choose to use. I would recommend using them, but they're not necessary if you already did a whole bunch of gluing. Okay. So I'm going to grab our fence. Okay, I'm going to pick the side that looks best to me. And all I'm going to do is take these two pieces and slide them over those pins. Okay, this is just a dry fit. I just want to make sure it's going to work the way I want it. Okay, and then I can go back and add a little glue. And just double checking the fit. Okay, so you can glue these in a couple of spots. You can put that down real quick. You can put a little glue on these little tabs because they kind of stick out just the tiniest bit and they catch the back of the fence. Okay. You can also squirt a little glue into there where the fence kind of goes down and rests on those little tabs. So I'm going to bring that down. Put that down in there. I'm going to push down a little bit. You can see the glue oozing out. We're going to go back and clean that up. Now we have our little fence piece on there. Now while we're here, we're going to go back and we're going to grab our perch that we glued before. I'm going to put a little glue on the back of the pin. Oop. And I'm going to put a little glue there too. Okay. Now, okay, put a little too much glue on there, but I'm going to find that hole in the front. I'm going to line it up nice and straight because it has a little wiggle room in there, so it can kind of cant off to one side. So I would put it in there, kind of orientate the birdhouse, that's sticking towards you, with the perch sticking towards you, so you could see if it's straight or not. If it's not, just give it a little tiny adjustment, clean up the glue. You can let that dry. And look at it from a couple of different angles, because as soon as I moved it, I saw it was bent in a different direction. Okay, now we're almost there. Next part, I'll show you those little tabs. Alright, so here are the tabs I've been talking about. So they are very simply designed to kind of fit right over there. Now, this works best for those who maybe assembled this with no glue and are going to use it as like an indoor decoration, and you just want to make sure it stays together in case it gets knocked or something like that. You could put a little bit of hot glue or a little bit of super glue right there, and it keeps the birdhouse from kind of coming apart. Okay, then you're no longer relying on the friction of these little tabs. But since we've come this far and we still have these little pieces, we're going to go the rest of the way, and we're just going to kind of glue these on there as a little bit of extra insurance. So you can put a little glue on the back, not a lot, and you can make sure to get a little glue on the inside of that little U of the tab. And I'm just going to slide it down. Okay, and then I'll go back and I'll wipe up any excess glue. So I'm actually going to go back and do that for all 10 of these tabs. So there are 4 on the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 on the back. You get another 4. If you were to flip this around, you have this one and this one. You do not have to lock the tabs on the little gate. The gate actually does that for us, which works out pretty well. Okay. And then we're all set. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed today's project. If you didn't get a chance to register for the class and you're interested in making a project like this, feel free to call the studio at 631-588-5024. Patrons who bring in their own wood actually can take advantage of our laser cutting service, where we can cut out projects like this and many others. If you completed a birdhouse, we love to see completed photos of all your projects. So if you want to send any photos to the studio at sachemlibrary.org, that would be awesome. I'll actually put a little pop-up in here to put the email address up as well. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.